We are live on UBC. I'd like to open this program officially with a prayer from Mr. Nkore. I don't know if he's ready.
Thank you. Let's humble ourselves and pray. Lord, we thank you for today. We thank you for good health. We thank you that you've brought us thus far. We thank you for the commission that you have led us to this place, the 12th Communications Consumer Parliament. Today we'll deliberate. We pray that you lead us, you guide our thoughts, you guide our meditations, and you help us to better our communications in this country. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, you're very welcome. This is the first physical consumer parliament we're having since 2019. Because of the pandemic, a lot of these congregations had been suspended, but we thank the Lord that we are here today and that He has enabled each one of us to make it through that season of life. We are still cautious though, because COVID is still with us, so we've had to adapt the way we do certain things. I commend those of you who are still upholding the discipline of wearing your masks. It is a discipline. And thank you for upholding that discipline. My name is Rebecca Mokite. I am the Acting Public and International Relations Head at Uganda Communications Commission. I'm going to be your program moderator today. Mr. Speaker, we've been in Arua City for a week. We've had a week long of activities. I need to commend the people from the West Nile sub-region for being very welcoming and warm to our teams that have been undertaking different initiatives across the region. Just to give you a very quick run-through of what we've undertaken this week. On Monday, 25th April, we had an ICT awareness workshop and engagement with persons with disabilities. It was a very interesting session because a lot of us here take for granted certain abilities and the conveniences that come with them. That workshop undertook consumer health camp and consumer self-help tips for the persons with physical disabilities. We also got feedback on some of their challenges, which have been further amplified by the limitations of the pandemic. And key among those were issues of authentication with biometrics, issues of privacy. I mean, if we're hiding our PIN numbers as people who have full capabilities of our eyes and ears, how do the blinds cater to those things? How do they maintain their dignity as full people when they can't be custodians of all their information openly? So we had that engagement on Monday 25th, and there were some outcomes that will be presented at a later point. On Tuesday, we had a consumer health camp at Cobala Market in Terego District. This was quite an interesting session, a very lively session that brought together a range of people and a lot of young people as well. At these consumer awareness camps, we normally undertake consumer-centric issues like SIM card registration and verification. We undertake engagement with the public on how to avoid being defrauded, issues of responsible digital usage, issues surrounding fake news and misinformation, and of course how to lodge complaints. But these are really interactive sessions, and I think it's important for me to specifically thank the teams from Airtel and MTN for joining us in those camps, because it makes a very big difference when they come and engage with us. They provide some real-time solutions. We commend them for coming out and coming in big numbers, coming with their brand colors, and making the events colorful. On Wednesday, Mr. Speaker, we were in Bidi refugee camp in Yumbe district. Over and above the hecticness of that journey, because of the nature of the highway that takes you to Yumbe, we had some really gainful engagements, and those were two. We had one engagement that was high level for all the key stakeholders in the refugee community. And the main issue there was SIM card registration and verification, and the different stakeholders had different concerns. But out of that engagement, we had good recommendations and a way forward that will also be presented at a later point. That engagement was also joined by representation from Office of the Prime Minister, Airtel and MTN, as well as the camp commanders. It was a good engagement. We also had a consumer awareness camp for BDBD that still undertook the same issues as we catered to at the market. Mr. Speaker, yesterday was Girls in ICT Day. That was our key activity for Thursday. And that activity also had build-up engagements from Monday. We had to pitch it two ways. One was to encourage girls to uptake STEMs. That involved us running robotic camps in 4 zones of the BDBD settlement. And do not be deceived, those zones are very far apart, kilometers apart. So I would really like to commend the teams that supported us in that undertaking. It was very humbling to see the enthusiasm of the girls, and they had good projects, and they were really inspired. I'm speaking on their behalf. We also had a training, digital skillings training for small and medium enterprises at Arua Technical Center. And that one also was to further strengthen how people can use ICTs to better improve their lives and their livelihoods. Mr. Speaker, today we are here for the Consumer Parliament, the 12th Consumer Parliament. Before you came in, I was making the room aware of some of the operators we have in our midst. We have representation from Airtel Uganda that has been led by their Managing Director, Mr. Manoj. We have representation from MTN Uganda that has been led by Mrs. Dorcas Muhwezi, the General Manager, Customer Care. We have representation from UTL, or Uganda Telecom Limited, that has been led by Mr. Waligo Uma, the Marketing Coordinator. We have representation from Laika Mobile, that has been led by Mr. Jude Alomo. Mr. Speaker, we also have broadcasters in our midst. We have representation from GoTV and DSTV, led by Madame Elizabeth Nalukenge. We have representation from Azam Media, led by Madame Yuguwe Afsa. And that is before we go to the sister government agencies like GCIC and the Ministry of ICT. We also have amidst us members that are going to make petitions to you at a later point. And this parliament is going to be officially handed over to you after we go through a certain opening process. I would like to invite the Acting Executive Director to make her opening remarks and to welcome our guests.
Thank you, Rebecca. As Speaker of the 12th Parliament of the Communication Consumers, the local government officials, in anticipation of their arrival, representatives from the government departments and agencies, the Government Citizen Interactive Center, our parent ministry, the Ministry of ICT and National Guidance, and other colleagues here, representatives of the industry service providers, Mr. Manoj Murali, Docas, and all our other colleagues, representatives of the consumer advocacy organizations that are represented here, our partners, the media, my colleagues from Uganda Communications Commission, my fellow directors, and all other staff here, members of the public, and all the viewers online, I greet you all. Mine is an honor, really, on behalf of Uganda Communications Commission. It's been 2 years of us sitting in anticipation of when we can have this engagement. And to address all of you and welcome you here to this event is indeed an honor that we do not take for granted your presence here. Let me start by appreciating the local leadership of Arua City. I think since it became a city, this is the first visit. Rebecca said we are here for the first time. We've had these consumer engagements in the region, but this is the first time we are here since it became Arua City. And the hospitality that has been accorded to the team since we started the activities on Monday is greatly appreciated. For sure, I think we'll be tempted to come back for many more periods and engagements that we may have. Ladies and gentlemen, the sitting of the Consumer Parliament is a climax of a week long of activities. Rebecca has already ably taken us through what has been happening in the week, so in the interest of time, I will not go through that. We chose to hit one bird with multiple birds with one stone, and came in a number of different engagements. As the Commission, much as the law requires us to look out for the interests of the consumers, but we all appreciate that it is core to the work of the regulator to understand, to protect the consumer, to ensure that the consumer gets value for the money that they pay for the services. And we also believe that an informed consumer is an empowered consumer. Gone are the days when the service providers, the government would think for you. Now you're the drivers of the development of this industry. So we treasure this opportunity as a chance to come out and hear from you. What are those issues that you have? What are the pain points, or what do you prefer to see? What are the challenges you're having? So that when we all go back, the policymakers, the regulators, and the industry players can all make sure that what we provide you is relevant to you and speaks to your needs. We also believe that a lot of time, a lot is taken for granted because we don't understand each other. We are not communicating. So we wish to go down to the grassroots and hear from the people firsthand. What is it that they are going through? As you've heard from the delegations that are here, the Uganda Communications Commission regulates telecommunication providers, broadcasting operators, and postal, as well as courier operators. So in this forum, we wish to hear what are those issues that you're having that are impacting us from enjoying the ICT services and reaping the full benefits of the same. As has already been mentioned, this is an initiative that was started in 2014. So, Mr. Speaker, you may wonder, we are set up as a parliament. This time, it is not us speaking to the people. We are listening, we are being accountable to the people. So in the bid of transparency and accountability, the ministry steps back, the regulator steps back, the operator step back, and we answer. We know we are normally put on task, and not many people always look forward to that, but in the spirit of that accountability, we make ourselves available so that we are accountable to those we serve and make sure that that's the only way we take this sector forward. As has been mentioned, we started this initiative in 2014. It has gone around the country, so we don't just sit in Kampala and assume we've talked to the consumers, because the consumers are spread across the country. We've had similar ones in Jinja, Mbale, Mbarara, Gulu, Masaka, Fort Portal, Lira, and now we are back here in Arua City. Mr. Speaker and honorable consumers, because as we said, we're now in the parliament mode. UCC in this case is just a facilitator. So we are facilitating. Don't look at this as our thing. We only seek to make it happen by bringing the different groups together. And in this case, this week has been a special one because we're saying digital inclusiveness. Oh, sorry. Leaving no one behind. So we are saying whether persons have special needs, the girls, the youth, the aged, those who are in the most remote areas, the refugees, how can we ensure that everybody is participating in this digital inclusive process? And in this case, we chose our theme as digital safety for all. We know that technology is a double-edged sword. It is beneficial to all of us, but it can be used against us. There are so many harms that can come with the use of technology. I'm sure all of you are wondering why we're wearing this logo, Tom Feda, because that's one of the things that is a current pain point. Scammers all over the world are looking at how to exploit technology and the trust of human beings to lie us and cheat us of our hard-earned earnings, and also use this to exploit us and make sure that we do not enjoy the benefits of ICTs. So we seek to make sure that through this engagement, we also share with you and empower you as consumers so that you can protect yourself and protect others as well. Don't keep the information to yourself. Share it with your neighbors, share it with your housemates, share it with your friends you sit around with, enjoying the various social events, so that everybody is empowered and protected against all the threats that come with it. Ladies and gentlemen, for those of you who may not know, Uganda Communications Commission took the approach of going closer to the people. So in all the various regions of Uganda, we have regional offices. For this region, we have Masindi as our regional office, but we also have an office in Gulu, Mbale, and Mbarara. So we encourage all the consumers, when you can't reach us physically in Kampala, please use those offices. And we also have online facilities. We have a toll-free number, meaning that when you call it, you don't pay any charges. You're not charged for the calls you make. And the number is 0800 222 777. We try to make it as simple as possible. So it's 0800, as we typically call such lines, 222 777. So in case of any challenges or in case of anything you want to be assisted, please do reach out and we will be happy to assist you. As was already introduced, among us, we also have my colleague director, the director of the Universal Service and Access Fund. Many of you will hear it being called UCSAF. So it's not a new project. We've been working with you with the Rural Communications Development Fund. And we've just renamed this to the Uganda Communications Universal Service and Access Fund. And all we are doing is blocking those gaps. We are saying as a country, we've set out the goals of our ICT development chapter. And that fund facilitates bridging the gap. And we don't do it alone. We work with different partners, such as the Federation of Small and Medium Enterprises, to make sure that we address those things that are preventing us, or barriers, as others will call them, to our realization of the goals. So this week, our target of the training was the small and medium enterprises. And we're not saying people who have formal businesses, saloon owners, carpenters, mechanics. All these are people who can benefit from ICTs in terms of improving their productivity, their efficiency. We are living in a global world thanks to ICTs. So we are able to order things online. We are able to sell our products online. And that is what we seek to make sure that people appreciate, so that they can harness ICTs for more than just social media, but harness it to actually uplift their standards of living. Mr. Speaker, in the interest of time, I will request that I end at this point and emphasize our strong conviction as Uganda Communications Commission to not only protect the consumers, but empower the consumer. We want the consumer to drive the development of ICTs in Uganda. Thank you very much for God and my country.
Thank you very much, Madam Executive Director. The Executive Director called digitization a double-edged sword. I kept thinking about it, and I think the closest comparison I could come up with was fire. The invention or discovery of fire made a lot of changes in how the world industrialized thereafter. But the extent to which fire greatly enhanced the things that society was doing, whether it was lighting or cooking or making, fighting, spears and tools, fire can also be very dangerous. So I think it's important for us to look at digitization the same way we look at fire. Fire can be very useful and enhancing for our lives, but if not handled well, fire can become an absolute nuisance. So digital safety for all is the way to go. Mr. Speaker, next on our program, opening program, is a presentation that is going to provide highlights of similar engagements that we've done before in other sub-regions, and what actions have been undertaken and have come out of them. This is a journey that we have to keep undertaking. There is no end to this. It's something we have to keep doing, because unlike other services, communications is ever evolving. And because it's ever evolving, consumers have to also be updated with new ways to safely and gainfully navigate. I would like to invite my colleague, Julius, to come and make the presentation that provides certain highlights on this journey that we've been on since 2014. You're welcome, Julius.
Thank you, Rebecca. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Julius Mboizi. I'm the Manager, Consumer Affairs with Uganda Communications Commission. And today I would like to provide you with a kind of status update on activities that the Commission has undertaken, achievements it has made since the last CCP 11. This is, of course, in conjunction with other stakeholders, operators, and industry. But before I get into that, we have been in the West Nile region for a week, and I thought we would share a clip just highlighting the activities that both Rebecca and the Executive Director have just talked to you about. Peter? Peter. So that's just a summary of some of the activities we've undertaken this week. Today's event, this Consumer Communications Parliament 12, is a culmination of these activities that have been conducted across the West Nile region, specifically in the districts of Arua, Terego, and Yumbi. The main purpose of these engagements, of these activities, is to empower the consumer. And we empower the consumer through education, through sensitization, through information. But more importantly, these activities allow the Commission to get valuable feedback from the consumers of ICT services on how to improve not only service provision and delivery from the industry, but also to inform our policy interventions as government. So today's CCP 12, the theme is digital safety for all, and with a focus on 3 focus groups of the PWDs, the refugee community, and the girls and youth in ICT. And I'm sure it will provide an opportunity for very valuable feedback on how to facilitate digital inclusion, which is a key priority for the Commission. So I prepared a slide, a presentation with a few slides, basically just giving updates since the last CCP. From the last CCP 11, there were 5 key areas that came up through our deliberations with the consumers. And these broadly fell under sensitization and awareness. Consumers felt there was a need for UCC, for the industry, to have more engagement, to go more into the field, go into the grassroots, like the executive director said, and get real feedback. So one of the issues was sensitization and awareness. The other was digital literacy. Technology advances so fast, changes so fast. We have different categories of consumers that will adapt to these changes at different paces. It is important that these consumers know how to use this technology responsibly and know their rights, know their obligations, know the risks associated with these technologies. There are also issues around broadcasting and content. The kind of content that was being broadcast on our platforms, issues around misinformation, or popularly known as fake news, issues around child-appropriate content, issues around what content is able to be viewed to communicate to differently enabled persons. There was also an issue on online protection. And then the final theme was on collaborations. That came out strongly. The need to collaborate with multiple stakeholders, different government agencies, so that we are all speaking one language. So under sensitization and awareness, these are just some of the things that have been done. There's been consolidation of official calling numbers by all operators. So each operator has one number used to call or to communicate with customers. This arose from, again, the fact the ED has highlighted about Tom Ferrer, people calling on different lines, Also about, it's also an access issue because the consumers need to have an easy number to dial. I think now there's 100 for that. But they also they need to know that their communication is coming from a centralized source. So it goes two ways. There's a number per operator that is different, but for each operator, but it is one number used to communicate. And then there's 100. So across all networks, if you want to get in touch with your service provider, you just dial 100. The idea is to make it as easy as possible. We have also introduced a fact-checking mechanism to verify information. So if you're not sure of a news clip you've seen, you're not sure of a video you've received, whether it is true or false, we have a mechanism where you can reach out to the Commission. There's a number on the screen, 0760 445 256. You can reach out to the Commission on WhatsApp. You can also reach us through our call center, the 0800 222 777. Share this piece of information, and we will help you to verify whether it is true or false. We have regularized our consumer engagements and undertakings across the country, and we've done regional tours. Our most recent tour was through Western Uganda. We've gone on the radio stations, and we're going to have more engagements like this because consumer sensitization, consumer education is a continuous thing. You can't just do it once and stop. And then we're running a number of campaigns as well. I hope you've all heard of the Tom Ferrer campaign by now, and it's really around the customer, the consumer, getting value for money from their dealings with the industry and avoiding getting defrauded, basically creating a digitally safe environment. So that campaign has focused on fraud and online safety, SIM card registration, fake news, privacy, and data protection. And then we also have initiated a campaign on anti-substandard devices. You'll be hearing more about this. The goal is to align Uganda with international standards and have our communication devices, all our communication devices, meet international standards, but also for the consumer to use legitimately approved devices and have forums to complain in case those devices have issues. Under digital literacy, through and in collaboration with the Universal Service Access Fund, the UCSAF, UCSAF, we've conducted a number of activities. Different entities. We have the Federation of Small and Medium Enterprises. across the country in the different regions, central, north, east, west. We have also partnered with the National Union of conduct digital literacy for differently enabled persons in Western Uganda. We've conducted community ICT training with the Uganda Institute of Communications Technology, and this has benefited over 15,000 individuals. Digital skilling has been conducted in 8 villages across the country, and some of the areas, just to highlight, Butaleja, Amudat, Kotido, Buvuma, to mention but a few. Under the broadcasting and content, there were quite a number of issues that arose in the 11th edition of the Consumer Parliament, and the Commission continues to engage with the broadcasters and with consumers, and we've taken a number of initiatives. There was an issue of access, not enough broadcasters in certain regions, and through the Commission's, under the Commission's licensing function, the Commission has licensed and continues to license local radios and TVs, and a number of those broadcast in the local dialects. The purpose is to reach every Ugandan. We've also extended our monitoring capacity because we receive a lot of complaints about the kind of content that is broadcast on some of the TV and radio stations. Is it in compliance with the minimum broadcasting standards? So in order to be able to properly perform that function, we have upgraded our capacity, technical capacity, to monitor content, broadcasting content. In a bid to reach and facilitate communication services for differently enabled persons, draft standards for sign language have been prepared, and this was done after nationwide consultations on how to improve service delivery through sign language on TV. We've undertaken a nationwide audit to ensure operators are complying with the minimum broadcasting standards, and you'll be seeing more of this in coming weeks. And then we have also carried out enforcement on illegal broadcasters mainly in response to consumer complaints. We also have a computer emergency response team, and this team continues to receive, review, and respond to reports reports about crimes committed online. Yeah, but in conclusion, really, the digital sphere technology is very dynamic. It changes every day. Digital literacy is key. Sensitization is key. And so we're going to continue with this. But as consumers, we also have to take our obligations seriously, be alert, question whatever information you receive. And as UCC, we have committed to continue raising awareness to empower and equip consumers across fraud and online security, SIM registration, privacy and data protection. But we cannot do this alone. So we'll continue to collaborate with the different partners. We have partnered and signed MOUs with different government agencies. The Personal Data Protection Office, we work closely with, Bank of Uganda, NITAU, the Uganda Police Force, and so many others. GCIC, I see Marcella here. And then finally, we commit to undertake and continue to do digital literacy training. For now, our focus is on special interest groups or marginalized groups. We're leaving no one behind. And I hope today's discussion generates very valuable feedback on how we can facilitate inclusion for the various consumer groups. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Julius. The room is very quiet. I would like to recognize the presence of the Deputy RCC, Arua City, Mr. Masaba Ismail. Mr. RCC, before you arrived, we were commending the leadership of Arua City for warmly welcoming us and our advance team and for hosting this 12th Consumer Parliament. Thank you very much on behalf of UCC and the rest of the team. Technology was acting up. When I think we all have the experience of parenting a toddler, and normally your children are very good until you have visitors. And then they start doing very strange things. So as the custodians of technology, when we are setting up these things, everything is working well until we go live, and then they start acting up. I would like to tell you a short story just to highlight the extent of the issues we deal with. I work with Uganda Communications Commissions. Don't mind the fact that I am not branded today. That is another story, especially when we're in charge of branding. But I work with UCC, and there are certain demands and expectations that come with working with UCC. And these demands are from the people closest to us, like our families. When I go for family events, members of my family expect me to give them my mobile phone because they believe as we don't buy airtime, that there's mobile airtime all the time. So my phone is moving around. People are making calls, people are making international calls. Don't mind the fact that I ask my colleagues for backup sometimes. Also, I normally hotspot the young people in the family. Everyone says, Becky, please put up the hotspot. Everyone connects. And then I am loading bundles because I have to uphold the UCC brand, Communications for All. My father is a retired civil engineer. And as we do consumer awareness for the public, I undertake that task for my family. And then I undertake it even further for my dad. I call him and tell him, Daddy, there are a lot of fraudsters. This is what's happening. Daddy, don't forward things. First read through, because during COVID, he kept on forwarding all kinds of things to us. And then people keep asking, Becky, did UCC call me? Did UCC? I'm like, UCC never calls anybody. So I'm always reminding them of the consumer self-help tips and how to navigate safely. So I think it was like 2 months ago, just after one of those phone calls, I called him and told him, Daddy, these people have now changed. Their stories have now changed to this. You know, you take him through. And guess what? 3 days later, my dad was defrauded of like 600,000. And normally he calls me even when his calls drop or when his phone hangs, he calls me for everything. But this time he kept quiet. Because, I mean, the man was embarrassed. Even after I keep updating him of the new tricks and what, my father, who is a retired civil engineer, so it's not like he's very gullible or he was defrauded. He said these people called him, they told him certain stories, they combined winning and some codes. And the same questions we ask consumers, that if you've not entered a competition, why do you expect to win? This was my dad, who was defrauded. So, ladies and gentlemen, we have a very big task ahead of us. This communication has to keep going out over and over and over again. I am at that point where we hand over the session to the Speaker for the Parliament to start. And if, Mr. Speaker, if these were your children, you have to know that they are now teenagers, so they talk back, they are opinionated, they have specific needs, and you can't dictate anymore. And with those tips, as a parent, I hand over to you, your teenage children, for the dialogue to begin. Thank you very much. We're going to take a very short break, no getting out of the room, to make a slight change in the setup. I hope the UBC team doesn't have to, our online guests, I don't think you have to be part of this reset-up, but just in 2 minutes or so, if you could allow us. Thank you very much.
One 107.3 Kampala, 96.9 Mbale, 95.7 Jinja, 98.6 Soroti. You are all covered.
UBC Butego.
Yikwa dola wini kune. Asoka mulio. Atekeri na itesa ibija sesi.
UBC Butego. This week on UBC.
Uganda is a
this weekend on UBC.
In a bid to make eye care service or eye care reach out to patients has been made easy and affordable by Lapare. Lapare is a very excellent brand. It's so pan-African, it's so affordable, it's so stylish. Come on, just case point, look at me. People have always asked me that, Adrogo, where have you gotten your glasses from? And I always tell them one thing, that is Lapare.
Hello, my name is Roslyn Kilonzo. I'm the expansion manager at Lapare.
Hello, my name is Esther Beatrice Nafula. I'm the operations manager for Lapare Group in Uganda.
What we have done and have come into the industry is, first of all, to increase awareness on the importance of eye care. And we do that through offering free vision tests. So in any Lapare branch in Kenya, in Uganda, even our branches in West Africa.
Now, I had a small chat with the gentleman, Mr. Kizito Joseph. Would you like to just maybe rise up so people can see who I'm talking about? A very small chat about the CCP. And yes, thank you. This is the gentleman I'm talking about. Now, he told me how the CCP began in 2014 and how it had grown in leaps and bounds to the cities and towns which were mentioned by the ED, and today, what a very great opportunity for West Nile to make its mark. The CCP has contributed to some of the milestones in the communication sector in this country, I'm told, and I believe that. And so, to you, the audience, you have an opportunity to seize, which opportunity you can use to make your mark and contribute to the communication sector in this country. But also, the other alternative is, which I wouldn't advise anyways, is to, for lack of a better term, waste it, because you already have it here. That will be through raising issues which are actually non-issues. And so, may I draw your attention to a few of our rules of procedure. So once you're given the microphone, you're able to be in order. We will refer to all the participants here as members, and try as much as possible to make sure your submissions are factual, because we wouldn't like a situation where you are saying your own things and they are not factual, they are not researched, they are, in that sense, it will divert the whole discussion. We'll ask you to be polite. We wouldn't tolerate any insulting language, any personal attacks. We're not going to accept them. And once you're seen to be doing such, you may forfeit your chance and the microphone will be given to the next speaker. Yes, all the submissions here will be made through the moderator, for that purpose the speaker, and so that they are all in order. Yes, you may ask questions later on, and these questions will be answered. There's a host of agencies here, service providers, and all this team is here particularly for you. So when you ask questions, you are able to get the answers. Yes, when you are willing to make a submission or raise a question, you'll raise up your hand, and so that you'll be helped and you'll ask the question. Well, having said that, we'll now go to the rest of our programming, for which you had been updated. We have a host of special interest groups here, and we will ask them each. Since this is a televised event, we have very limited time. And I will ask that you take not more than 5 minutes when you are making a petition here. And so that will be followed a little strict. And this is in all good faith to make sure that everything here is accounted for. And every one of us gets a chance also to raise their issues. I will now immediately go to the persons with disabilities. Representative, I'll give you 5 minutes to make your submission. Most welcome.
Yes, the Right Honorable Speaker and members of this august House, Angutoko Paulino Jacinto, my name. I'm the chairperson for persons with disability, the City Union of Persons with Disabilities of Arua City. I live with physical disability. Right Honorable Speaker and members, I've come here to share our experiences as persons with disabilities on ICT usage and how this can inform appropriate interventions. In this world, we have over 1 billion people who live with different forms of disability. And for us here in Arua, we have about 4,904 persons with disabilities here in this city. This is in accordance with the ZOA, VNG International, and Arua City Union of Persons with Disabilities Household Survey that we conducted in October 2021. Right Honorable Speaker and members, the average level of formal education among people with disabilities here is about primary 4. And this has impacted negatively on the level of ICT proficiency and utilization among the persons with disabilities. Because without education, you cannot manipulate these ICT products. Right Honorable Speaker and members, the awareness and use of ICT by persons with disabilities is very, very low. Very few of our people own mobile phones, and a few have managed to acquire radio handsets. A few have computers and a few have email addresses. We have organizations here in this region, West Nile, that work with persons with disabilities and also the organizations of persons with disabilities. These organizations do not have IT departments that could support ICT utilization for persons with disabilities. Right Honorable Speaker and members, we have challenges in ICT utilization among people with disabilities. This is hinged on poverty. Over 60% of our people with disabilities in West Nile here, they live in poverty. And therefore, they cannot afford the necessary products that could enable them, that could include them in ICT utilization. I have talked about low levels of education, that is low literacy and numeracy levels and education among our people, and this cannot enable them to cope up with the operations and manipulations of the ICT tools that we have in the market. Many of our people do not have information on ICT inclusion programs for the persons with disabilities. There is also lack of access to inclusive IT products that accommodate unique disabilities, like the visual impairment, like the people living with hearing impairment. Many of these computers and laptops we have in the market here, the visually impaired cannot use them. There are some softwares, the JAWS, that are supposed to be installed in. We were here on Monday, and we were told those softwares, they are very expensive. And therefore, many of our members with those special disabilities, they do not know what is happening in this world. And therefore, want to appeal to this august House that the government, through UCC, could make appropriate interventions and allocate resources in order to provide, to secure some of these softwares and products that can be used by our people with special disabilities like the visual and hearing. Lastly, our proposed interventions would like to appeal to to this house that government could provide quality education and deliberate functional ICT literacy for persons with disabilities. I want to thank UCC for the previous presentations, that they are working with our National Union of Persons with Disabilities. They are working with the NOUDU, the Women Union of Persons with Disabilities. That is very good, but there is a need to do more than that. I would also like to appeal for integration of sign language into the national curriculum of Uganda, so that professionals that come from our training institutions and universities graduate with the full knowledge of sign language. This can enable them straight away to communicate, especially with the community of the deaf people in this country, and especially also to use these IT gadgets and equipments to enhance inclusion of people living with the hearing impairment. Empowerment of persons with disabilities through literacy and income generating programs, supporting the provision of low technology assistive technologies for persons with disabilities, such as hearing aids, the wheelchairs. Because here, I was climbing through here. I want to thank the management of this hotel, Desert Bridge. It is accessible to persons with disabilities. There's a provision of RAM on this side. I want to appreciate that. And therefore, Arua 1 FM, radio parties, UBC, NTV, please make sure your infrastructure are accessible to persons with disabilities, so that when we go there, we can also contribute our ideas for the development of this country. Provision of ICT infrastructure to cater for students with special needs and adult persons with disabilities in pursuance of further education, or in business ventures to grow their business. Right Honorable Speaker and members of this House, we have phones in the market, but these phones, most of them are actually silent. There are those that whose buttons, when you press, they can talk, but this may not work very well for the persons living with the hearing impairment, the persons living with the visual impairment. So I would like to appeal to the manufacturing world. I have seen a corner there for the service providers. I have not seen a corner for those who make phones. I don't know whether they're in this parliament. Please make sure the products that you release to the market, they are inclusive, because we work in line with the Sustainable Development Goals of the United Nations. That is goal number 10, that says reduce the inequalities. We'd like to see that we leave no one behind, and that you can be able to accommodate our people with disabilities in this changing world of technology. I submit. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you so much. First of all, for keeping time, but also for the beautiful submissions. Now, we will have time when we'll respond. I'm sure UCC, Ministry of ICT, and all those concerned.
Also have enough air.
It is intellectually engaging.
And you can only become a leader when there are problems.
I like that.
The same applies to Rwanda, Burundi. So what are we federating?
Whether rats from another country can be, somebody must be there to hold everybody accountable.
Inspiring Uganda.
Com 4 membros do Parlamento moçambicano, que nós